Can go, yeah. Go, please.
Good afternoon, parents. Please accept my sincere apologies for being a few minutes late. I'm afraid I've just been blown away physically as I was dismissing Year 11 students and then had some technical problems. Not quite the first impression that I was hoping to make to you this afternoon. So my sincere apologies, but thank you so much for being here. My name is Lucy Harrison and I am the very proud head teacher of the Archer Academy, and I'm delighted that you will be joining our community from September as members of the Archer. Now, of course, some of you may already be experienced Archer parents, but for many of you, this may be the first child that you are bringing into secondary education and bringing into the Archer. So I'm aware there'll be different emotions and that you will be coming from different places this afternoon. I'm so sorry that we can't see one another in person, that we can't, as usual, be sat in our school dining room or the school library, enjoying a real cup of coffee and hopefully a slice of cake and getting to know one another in person. But of course, we know that we must be incredibly cautious at the moment as we reopen schools safely surrounding the pandemic. But I do hope on the other side of the Easter holidays that we can begin to do those things as soon as possible, because us getting to know one another will be of the most incredible importance as we go on this journey together. So how will this afternoon work together? Well, there is a Q&A function on the function on the site, and what I would ask you to do, please, is to put your questions into that Q&A function. Please know that there is no silly question. Everything is of the most incredible importance, from the small things around what time does school start to how much homework is set, to the big questions related to wider education. So please, I urge you to use the Q&A function this afternoon as a way of us getting to know one another and a way to help you really and truly to begin to feel like experts about the Archer Academy. So what I will do first of all this afternoon is just to tell you a little bit about the background of the school. It may be very familiar to some of you, but less so perhaps to others. But we are in fact a relatively new school. We opened in 2013 following a campaign by a local group of parents who were seeking a new educational provision for secondary education in East Finchley. They were particularly wanting to ensure that that school was co-educational without an 11+ exam and mixed gender. And they wanted it to be an outstanding secondary school. And over the past 8 years, we have certainly become that and more. But I think those roots in the community are what set us aside from perhaps other schools in terms of our very community focused approach, the very close and working relationships that we have with our families, and how well we simply all know one another. But as part of that new school that was created, there were some very clear visions that sat behind it that have been my great honour to bring to life over the past 8 years. But we were quite determined to be a small secondary school, and we have held firm with that, and I think that's one of the most wonderful features about our school. We have just 162 children in each year group, and that's just 27 children in each class, which is much smaller than most state schools. And we of course then are split into a campus. So we have our upper school, which is in fact where I'm sitting at the moment in a classroom at our upper school, and we then have our lower school, which is where your child will begin their educational journey. So they will start year 7 in the lower school in year 7, and then they will stay there until the end of year 9 before transitioning to the upper school for years 10 and 11. And what that means is that this small nurturing environment is created for our young people that were so in line with the vision and values of the opening school. Some of you parents may have children who are currently at schools, for example, Garden Suburb or Martin or Brooklands, that are truly wonderful schools, but they are big primary schools. And in fact, the lower school at Archer is smaller in its number of young people than some of those schools. And sometimes when we're thinking about moving to secondary school, we can think that it's going to be a really huge thing, thousands of children, whereas in fact when you come to our lower school, there are only 3 year groups of children, and we're looking at sort of roughly 450 children on the campus. So it is a nice small environment, which I think makes it a nice stepping stone from primary school for young people to feel really comfortable. But other really key parts of this sort of vision and values that sit behind our school were related chiefly to incredibly high expectations and really high academic results. Well, you would expect those things as a parent. You want your child to come to school, to pass exams and to do very well. But more broadly within that vision are much more aspirational things, and that's to do with the character and experience that a young person has during their time at school and what that helps them to grow to become. And we very much meet that through some of the very different approaches to our curriculum. So your young person will study the traditional academic curriculum that you would expect, but then around that they have a much greater provision for the creative and visual and performance arts. We also have a curriculum pathway called thematic learning, which is where students learn by theme rather than just by subject discipline. We have our wonderful enrichment curriculum on a Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, where young people get to choose the different activities that they want to do, whether that be pottery or football or debating society, jazz dance, and that is a compulsory part of our school on a Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. And then we have a huge provision for extracurricular trips and workshops and events. And goodness, we've missed those things during this period of the pandemic. But what all of those things do is to provide a very rich and deep learning experience for young people where they can truly get to know themselves, find out their passions, the things that make them tick, develop very confidently in terms of their social skills and their public speaking skills, and enable them to become a very confident and well-rounded young people, ready to take on the world around them. And for me, that essence of our school is what comes from those founding visions and values, but it's what you see and feel around the place in our quite small school that has such a rich and developed provision for our young people. Now, I have been at the school since opening, so just a little bit of background on me that hopefully is helpful to you. I joined the school initially as the deputy head and then took the headship in September 2015, just as we were opening our lower school campus on Stanley Road. And it's such a privilege for me to hold this position. I think it's much more than a job for me. I'm very committed and connected to it, and so proud of what my young people and my staff have achieved. And that, of course, has been put to some test over the last year, but they have flourished during that period. But I don't think there's been anything nicer than seeing children back in uniform and coming through school gates over the course of the last few days. Now, what I'm going to do now, parents, now I've given you just a little bit of context and history about the school, is I'm going to answer some of your questions. And please do keep them going. And then around those questions, I will just sort of develop and extend with different bits of information about the school. Oh, I do wish I could see you and enjoy a cup of coffee with you at this point, but I hope this is a good bridge before we can do those things. So first question here, thank you so much for this question, such an important one. And a parent here has asked me to tell you a little bit about the transition programme. Now, transition has always been an incredibly important part of our school. As a school that opened, of course, originally just with Year 7, our founding stones were built on transition. And in fact, my previous role before I joined the Archer was to be an assistant head teacher at a school in Hertfordshire responsible for transition. So it's something that I feel very, very passionately about. And I have felt that we've reaped the rewards in our school community from a strong transition programme. Because you can see just how confidently our children start secondary school. However, transition has perhaps never been more important than it's been when young people have missed periods of time at primary school, to ensure that they really can confidently make that jump, that step from primary school. So what does it involve? What will it look like? What can you expect as a parent? Well, chiefly that programme begins today with us beginning to get to know one another. And you've had an initial welcome letter from me. And then once you have accepted your place at the school and the first round of offers have secured formally, then you will get a second letter from me. Now that letter will come in the week of the 22nd of March, and that letter will outline the transition programme in more detail. Now I just must add a little note of caution there that of course there is some subject to change in light of sort of government guidance, but our hope is that we will be able to do everything in full and in person, supported by opportunities that are online and virtual. And in the same week that you get a letter that outlines the dates of that programme, your child would also get a very special card from myself and Miss Ogbasalesi, who is the head of Year 7. And that is a welcome card to the school with us simply saying how pleased we are that they, as a young person, have chosen to come to our school and what an adventure and journey they have ahead of them. And then from the other side of the Easter holidays, we very much move into a programme of events and opportunities to help you get to know the school and for us to get to know you. Because I believe that it's strong relationships that enable an effective transition, relationships that are built on really knowing one another very well and having a very personal approach to those relationships. So what can you expect? Well, the transition programme begins gently after Easter because traditionally that's when your child will be doing their SATs. And then it really begins to become a much more significant factor as we move into early and late May. So first of all, we launched something called the VIP Zone, which is an online transition programme which enables your child to take part in a series of weekly activities online. And each week we upload different information about the school, including photographs and case studies on the different teachers and the subjects. And then they complete an online activity which awards them merits, and those merits go towards their starting point on the school honour roll in September. And that tends to be a really enjoyed part of the transition programme, a bit of healthy competition before we start school. But it's also in a very informal way, enabling the children to take control of learning about what their secondary school is going to be like. And I would really urge you as parents to do some of that with them. Then coupled with that is that we have a series of taster lessons where the children come into school and have lessons with Archer teachers and meet some of the older children as well. We then have induction days where the children come in and have a go at practicing being a Year 7 for the day through following a timetable, having lunch in the dining room, activities at break and lunchtime, doing the day for real. And what we find is that that really helps them to have limited anxiety before starting in September because they know they can do it already. In fact, they could do it when they were in Year 6. We have a series of drama workshops that sit around that as well, where the children come in to take part in drama workshops with some of our older students. And we then have a summer school, and that we hope to take place in the first week of the school holidays. Now, we find that to be a really essential part of the transition programme, and all being well, we'd intend for it to be in the first week of the holidays. So just worth penciling that one in. And now I'm aware we're all busily thinking about our summer activities, but that's when we traditionally do our summer school, and we'd hope to do it then. Wrapping around that is the transition interview that takes place for you, your child, with either myself, Miss Ogbasalesi, the head of Year 7, or Miss Martin, the head of lower school, where we sit down just as a group and talk about your child, the most important person in this relationship. We get to know them, we get to know you, find out core information that can help us ensure that they get off to the very best start. We also spend some time nipping in and out of primary schools and spending some time in the primary school classroom. And I so hope that that will be possible this summer because seeing them in their native habitat with their specialist teachers is so important. But there's a really special feature that then wraps around all of that, and that is our community literacy project. And that is that now for the last 3 years, we've worked collaboratively with a number of local primary schools to read a shared novel together, which is Norton Juster's The Phantom Tollbooth. And the children read that book whilst they are in Year 6 and complete a series of activities that have been planned collaboratively between Year 6 and Year 7 teachers. And then when they start in September, they complete a series of further activities and opportunities based on the book. And what it means is that, one, we've explored a beautiful novel with the most wonderful language that is really about a young boy going on an adventure and learning about himself. So it's a way of enabling the children to reflect and think about the adventure that they are going on and some of the challenges that they might experience. But it also, on a very subtle level, enables the children to have had a shared experience with one another. So all 162 of them will have read the same book before they start school, and it gives them a talking point. What I hope you can see there is a really comprehensive approach to transition that we will continue to evolve and develop based on your needs, particularly in the context of the time that they might have had out of school. But it's something that we really enjoy doing, and the children will often reflect and talk about for many years to come when they move through the school. And a parent then here is asking me about our reporting system in the school. So our reporting system, you can expect 3 school reports during the course of the year. 2 of those school reports are data driven, so it's just grade based. But the 3rd report that you get in the summer term is a full written report, a little bit more like what you would be used to in primary school, where you get written commentary on the different subjects and then an overall sort of assessment from the form tutor. But in addition to our reports, we have something called Learning Review Day, which means that you have the opportunity at 3 different times during the year to come into school with your child, to meet with the form tutor, to review their school report and to celebrate their successes and really identify them and capitalise on them, make sure your child is really hearing about how well they're doing, but also to identify really smart actions in terms of things they need to prioritise on to do even better and to make even more progress. And so that couples with the reports, and that's quite a unique feature of our school, something our parents really value. And that is then supported further by parents' evenings, which are when you come to meet with the different subject teachers. So there are plenty of opportunities for you to get a really thorough sense of how your child is getting on. So when might we be able to meet the Year 7 form teacher and the head of year? Well, you will be able to meet the head of year in the coming weeks after Easter, as soon as we're able to either bring you into school or we'll do another event like this. And as I said, her name is Miss Ogbasalesi, and you can see a little bit of detail about her on the school website. But she is a permanent head of Year 7. That is that she supports each Year 7 year group through the school, and then another head of year takes over in the summer term of Year 7. And takes the children ideally all the way through the school. So she's very experienced at supporting the transition programme and a truly wonderful member of our staff. And in terms of the form tutors, you will meet the form tutors in the first week of July, and you'll have the opportunity to hopefully come into school, but otherwise online, to meet with each of them individually, and then we will have a session all together. So you'll know really well your child's head of year and form teachers before finishing the summer term, and your child will have spent at least a whole day with their form teacher before they finish school as well. And a parent then here has asked about homework, so that's a very good question to ask about secondary school. It can often be something that children feel quite anxious about, and I would say that there's no reason for them to feel anxious, but it is important that we're really clear from the outset that it is a bit of an adjustment, that it is a bit of a change, and that we continue to work with our primary colleagues around how perhaps we can develop and evolve expectations around homework in those final weeks, perhaps of Year 6 as well, so it's not so much of a shock. But in terms of our homework, we have a timetable, and you should broadly expect that your child should get about 7 hours a week of homework when they're in Year 7. But we don't set all of that homework at once when they start in September. Okay, that would be far too overwhelming. We need to focus on settling into new routines and feeling really comfortable and confident in our environment. So over the course of the first month, we would steadily introduce homework to help them get into good habits. But we have some really good structures around how we set homework. So we never set homework on one day due for the next, because I don't believe that genuinely does help children to build their independent study skills, but also because the majority of our children do an awful lot of extracurricular activities, and I want them to do those things, and I want them to be able to do their homework well and go to orchestra or swimming or football or whatever it might be. So you have a timetable so that you know which subjects you're going to get set on which days over the course of the week. And all of the homework in terms of the tasks are set via an online portal called Show My Homework. And you can also have a login to that portal so that you can see what homework is being set as well. And whilst the homework may all be set online, that doesn't mean that it's completed on the computer. Often that might be a written task or something that they need to do in their book, but the instructions are all set on that portal so that they're really consistent and easy to manage for you and for the child. Okay. One of the things I often say to parents about homework is that you will all have a moment at some point between September and October half term where homework kind of becomes a thing that you talk about in your house. And it could be for a variety of different ways. It might be because you are just so proud of how your child is managing that different kind of workload and how independently they're securing it. It might be that you're a bit conscious that your child might be overdoing it, that they may be spending too long on bits of work, and in fact that is making them a little bit anxious. Or it might be that your child has got themselves in a bit of a pickle. They've got a bit disorganised, they're feeling a bit behind, and their time management is not quite where you or we would want it to be. Any one of those experiences may come your way as secondary school parents. Please know they're all quite normal. And what's important is that we work together, home and school, to ensure that your child is best placed for success. One thing that parents often find helpful there is sending their child to homework club. So in fact, your child can stay after school every afternoon in one of the computer rooms or the library and be supported by teaching assistants to complete the homework. And lots of children find that incredibly supportive, and lots of parents do as well. So again, that's something you might want to think about in terms of how your child is and how you think they might respond to homework. So how many classes are there in Year 7? We have 6 classes in Year 7. So we have 6 classes in every year group. And as I said, those classes are of 27, and your child stays in the same tutor group all the way through school, which is a really nice part. So even when they transition to upper school, they stay in the same tutor group. But the children are mixed up for their different subjects. So the children that they're in their tutor group with, they may then be with different children for English or dance or French. And that's a really lovely way for them to meet different children and to make new friends as they study their different subjects. Okay. So a parent here has asked about, in the absence of SATs, how will we set children on their flight path? So clearly a very knowledgeable parent here, so thank you. So this parent already knows about flight paths, so may already of course have an older child with me at school or have read some of our literature, so thank you. That's a really helpful question for other parents who may not be aware of flight paths, so thank you. So at the school, we have an assessment module or mechanism in lower school, which is called Flight Paths. And this is a way of supporting the children in understanding how much progress we think they should be making in their different subjects. But it's also about supporting the teachers to ensure that they are either providing enough support or enough stretch and challenge in their lessons. So it's a kind of mutual system to enable all children to make the most progress and to really realise their potential. Now, we design those flight paths initially around some of the baseline information that we get from primary schools. So we would usually use the Key Stage 2 SATs plus other information. So they were never set solely on that, but that is one aspect. What we've done this year at school, because of course there were no SATs last year, is that we have used baseline assessments that we completed in September. So we sat some national tests that we bought as a school from Durham University, and we've used those tests to help us set our flight paths. Now, to be fair, we've always done those tests at a school and we've used those tests alongside the SATs, whereas this time we've just used those tests. But it's been really quite successful, and it has ensured that our children start Year 7 with the same structures that children have had previously, and I think they found that really reassuring, having missed some aspects of schooling when they were in Year 6. So it's worked really well. If you'd like to know a little bit more about flight paths, then there is an information guide on the school website on the Year 7 page, and you might find that helpful. But certainly we have found it an assessment mechanism that has enabled our curriculum to grow even further and for our children to take real control of their learning. And it's really enabled even better teaching in the classroom. And certainly that's what Ofsted felt when they visited us a couple of years ago. And then a parent has asked here that they'd like to know how the lunch system works. Do they bring food from home or do we have meals? So we have a dining room at school. We have 2 dining rooms, one in each campus, and we have a full catering service. So we have a catering company that we contract to at school called Olive Dining, and they provide a hot lunch service at school. And children can either buy a hot lunch or we also have sandwiches that they can buy from school. It's really popular, and I think particularly right now, when as parents you're probably sick of having to feed your child 3 or 4 times a day, it's been even more popular this week. The food is wonderful. I think sometimes children think they might get to secondary school and there might be lots of chips and chocolate, but I'm afraid we are a healthy eating school and we take that very seriously, but the quality of the food is lovely, very much enjoyed by the children. If you want your child to have a packed lunch, then of course they can, but the majority of children tend to eat in the dining room. As I said, you can choose a hot meal or sandwich meal. The menu is published every week on the school website, and also we have a link to that in the newsletter so that you can see what's available to them. Particularly perhaps also if your child has any kind of allergies or anything like that, it's just important to check and make sure that we're best placed to support them with that. In terms of how they pay for their lunches, or you pay for their lunches, we use Parent Pay, which may be a familiar online parent paying system that you have at your primary school, and that's coupled with a biometric system, which tends to cause great delight amongst the children, and that is that their fingerprint is used to tap on the till, and that then connects to your account and takes the money from your account to pay for their food. But what it means is that you can see what they're eating every day. And of course, they do have a little bit more freedom at secondary school than perhaps they had at primary school. And that enables you to just make sure that they are eating the kind of balanced meal that you want them to. But it tends to be very popular. There's also food available at break time as well in the dining room. But again, you might want to send them with their own snack. That's absolutely fine. And then how many lessons do the children have every day? Super question. So we have 6 lessons a day, but on a Tuesday and a Thursday, the 6th lesson is in fact enrichment. So we're slightly complicated in that we finish school on different times at different days. So thank you to the parent who's asked this question, because it enables me to tell you a little bit about times of the day as well. So on a Monday and a Wednesday, we finish at 3:40 and the children have 6 lessons during the course of the day. On a Friday, we finish at 3 o'clock, but on a Tuesday and a Thursday, we finish at 4:05. And that is because we have an enrichment class after they've had tutor time. And that's how we structure our day. And the children get used to that very, very quickly, as also do our parents. But it enables us to ensure that we can have the really deep and varied curriculum that we want, and that enrichment is a core part of what we do, not an add-on. Now, of course, there are extracurricular clubs as well. They've taken a bit of a hit during this period of the pandemic, but I expect them to be back in full force in the coming weeks and months, and certainly before your child starts at school. But that means that your child may choose, for example, to stay for extracurricular sports or music after school. And that timetable is published on the school website, and you can work with your child to decide what they want to do. Lots of children stay after school every day, particularly if they're very much into the arts or the sports, and I'd encourage your child to get involved in everything, because there's always something going on here at school. And then a parent has said that what will be put in place in September to help children catch up academically, building on the Year 6 catch-up programmes. And then what expectations are realistic for Year 7 teachers? Well, and that again is a really important and helpful question. So we will be first of all working very closely with your children's primary school teachers, and in fact I have a meeting with the Year 6 teachers on the 22nd of March, where we are going to be reflecting on what the first few weeks have been like back in school in the Year 6 classroom, and actually comparing and seeing what they've been like in the Year 7 classroom as well, and looking at what sort of areas of real strength are coming through for children, but also what are being identified by the Year 6 teachers, who are very much the experts at this point, as areas that perhaps we will need to adapt our curriculum for and to evolve our curriculum. Now, one of the ways in which, of course, that collaborative working is so powerful in the summer term is the Phantom Tollbooth project, and that really will enable us to be working collaboratively with primary school teachers to evolve that offer to ensure that children are having the real sort of maximum benefits of face-to-face teaching. Now, in terms of our Year 7 curriculum, we at this stage, of course, made quite considerable developments to that curriculum this September based on the experiences of last year's incoming cohort from school closure. And so we will evolve that again, dependent on the experiences of children in school. But my hope is that all children will be back in school full time now for the remainder of the academic year. I'm going to touch quite a big piece of wood while I say that, but my hope is that all children are back in school, and as a result my hope is that children will be very well placed for September, but that we have any additional catch-up programmes ready around our curriculum as well. We currently are offering a large-scale tuition programme that has been funded by central government that you may be aware of. It's phenomenal. Never have I been given such money from government to spend on one such important thing, and I intend to spend all of it as quickly as possible on the children that need it. But we will continue to evolve those programmes as well, where children have particularly bespoke needs that they would benefit from, so that every child is best placed for success. But it's something we take very seriously. It's a very personalised approach wrapped around the broader curriculum. So I think we're well placed to do that at the moment, but for me the heart of that is working collaboratively with the Year 6 experts and seeing what their experiences have been like, and that's why we've waited until the 22nd of March to have that team meeting, so that we've had a couple of weeks experience of Year 7 being back in school, and they've had the same of Year 6 as well. My apologies, I'm just going to zoom down with the questions here. So a parent has asked here, are there any support programmes available for children with special educational needs? Absolutely. We are a truly inclusive school. We have a very large special educational needs department and a very specialist team of colleagues within that. It's important to be sort of very specific about what needs your child might have, for example, if they are dyslexic or whether they are autistic, and what support that they may need. need. What I would urge you to do as a parent is to ensure that you have reached out to my SENCO, he's one of my assistant heads, Mr. Latter, to ensure that we have begun to start talking about what your child needs, because the more we know about what your child might need, the better placed we can be to really ensure that they get off to a flying start and have the provision that they require. But I would say that's something we do very well, and I think if you were to talk to existing Archer parents, that is what they would say as well. So how are children with EHCPs integrated within the school? So for parents who are not familiar, an EHCP is an education healthcare plan, and that's related to a child with special educational needs. We are an inclusive school. Our children with educational healthcare plans take part in the full life of the school, as all other children would, and are very well supported in doing that through our special needs department and through the role of our teaching assistants. Once you have the opportunity to come and walk round the school in the coming weeks, I think you'll really see that in life, in that every child is treated as part of a community, and as a result, I think they make really excellent progress and have really strong relationships with one another. And then a parent has asked here that how are the year 7 classes split? Is it by achievement, so grades in year 6, or is it by the school? Okay, now that's a really good question to ask at this particular point, and I'm quite sure there's lots of parents who are pleased that that question has been asked. Our year 7 classes, the tutor groups, are completely mixed ability, and they are also mixed in terms of gender and in terms of personality. What we don't want to find is a class with lots of quiet children or lots more boys than girls. So we really want to ensure that we have a really good mix within each of those 6 classes. And then in terms of their subjects, that's where some further organisation comes to play. So the tutor groups are completely mixed, and we have a system called X band and Y band. And again, parents, you may be familiar with this. It seems to be quite a well-known thing. X band and Y band are completely mixed up, but they have 3 classes in each half of the year, and it's purely for us a logistical thing. It's about how the timetable works. So 3 mixed ability classes on each half of the year, and then within those halves of the year, the children are set by ability for some of their subjects. We don't do any of that setting until after October half term, because we believe children need time to settle into life at school and to get used to some of their new subjects. Initially, we only set in English, maths and science, but we feel that that's appropriate for the cohort of our school, which tends to be very much above national averages and needing that sort of stretch, challenge and support. So we set children after October half term. Those setting decisions are based on internal assessments that the children do at school, but we of course take into account as well the reports and detail that we've had from children's primary school teachers. We then do further setting, but not until around Easter time for foreign languages, and then as the children move through into year 8 for humanities as well. But we do it in a very steady way to ensure that children are best placed for success. And then in terms of how are the tutor groups decided, and will they be able to nominate friends from their primary schools? So another very good question, thank you. So the primary school, the tutor groups are decided following our interviews with each of you. So we have an interview with each of you in the first 2 weeks of June, and during that interview we ask you whether there are any particular children that your child should be with or not be with. And sometimes not being with can be because perhaps there's been a falling out or a problem. Sometimes it can be because they're the best friend, and that's not necessarily the right person to be in the class with. So we take some nuanced decisions there with you. We also ask the same question of your child's year 6 teacher as well, to ensure that their sort of very professional perspective can come into that. So then we put the classes together based on whether some children know each other from primary school, but also lots of children come, this may be your child, and they don't know anybody at all because they have come from a different primary school or a new area. So it's really important that the children have plenty of opportunities to mix. So we tend to sort of put groups of children from some of our larger primary schools within each tutor group so that they have the chance to make new friends, and that children that don't know quite so many other people have the chance to make lots of new friends as well. And what we tend to find is that they develop those relationships really quickly, particularly because of the induction opportunities and summer school as well. Okay. And do you think there might be a residential year 7 trip in the autumn term? Oh my goodness, parent, I hope so. So if you know our school, you will know that every year since we opened, we have been on a residential weekend just straight after October half term. We usually go to the Kingswood Centre in Kent. In fact, that's where we have been every year for the first 7 years of our school. And then this year, of course, the government said that schools were not allowed to go on school trips, which is completely appropriate. So we developed an internal Kingswood experience for our students. students, but unfortunately were blighted by COVID over the course of the first couple of weeks after October half term. So we're going to be doing an internal Kingswood for our year 7s next half term so that they still have some of that experience. But we are, as a school, committed to children having at least one residential trip every year while they are at lower school. I think what children gain from residential opportunities going away with their friends and their teachers are so phenomenal. And we're really missing that as a school that knows how important those things are. So please know that if we are allowed, they will be absolutely going on that residential. And if we can't go on it, we would certainly intend to create our own version of it at school. But I truly hope we're in a better place by then. If someone needs more help on English, will someone at school help them? Yes, so we have an EAL tutor, so an English as an additional language tutor at school, who works with groups of young people where they may need some extra help with their English. But also one of our teaching assistants is our lead practitioner for EAL, so she specialises in the provision in school and also some of the in-class support for teachers as well. So if that's your child, then please do know that there's an awful lot of provision there. It's something we do very well, but again, I'd urge you to make us aware of that so that we can get it in place as soon as they start and that there isn't any delay, because the more confident the young person is with their English, then making friends and everything else will just be so much smoother. And the campus is quite open. What security measures are in place to protect the children? Well, in fact, we have full fences. If we talk about lower school, first of all, we have full fences all around the campus, and there is in fact there are only 2 points in which anybody can enter the campus, and those are gated points, and those gates are only open in the morning and the afternoon. And when they're open, then there's always a member of staff who is on duty next to those gates. There's no sort of free coming in and out without a member of staff there. And then those gates are locked again throughout the day, and there is a sort of magnetic feature on those gates, which means they can't be opened by the outside. They can only be opened from the inside during school time. So I would say lower school is incredibly secure. And we've done some further enhancements to that, in fact, in recent years, particularly around the fences at the front of the school. If any of you have been recently, you might have noticed that we've made those a lot taller because we felt that that was something we needed to do for our school. If we reflect on our upper school, that is equally a very secure site, and there is only one point of entry, which is along the causeway, which again is always staffed and only accessible at particular points. So I would say that we are in fact a very enclosed campus, but I would urge you to come and have a look around, and if that's something that worries you, please do talk to me about that. But it's something we take very seriously, particularly because of where we are geographically. So with our upper school being so close to the tube station, there's a lot of people walking around, so we've always felt very conscious of that. And equally with the lower school being so close to the tube line, the back end of the Northern Line, again, we've been very, very conscious of that. So please do talk to me if that's something you'd like a little bit more information about, but we do take it very, very seriously. And then a parent here has asked about, do the clubs require payment? So enrichment, no, enrichment is a core part of our school. So there is no charge for enrichment on a Tuesday and Thursday. Parents can't often quite believe that, but we work very hard with our sort of fundraising and wider school grant applications to increase our school budget there. In terms of the extracurricular, in terms of the sports, the arts, the music, very rarely is there a charge. We offer those things within the school provision because we think they're important. We do occasionally charge for some very bespoke courses. So, for example, lots of children like to do music theory at school to support their grade 5 music exams, for example, and we do charge for that. So it's very rare, and most of the time those things are absolutely free because we want to do them and the staff want to do them. So are there any overnight trips? Yep, I think I've touched on that one, but yes, we have what we call a minimum offer in our school, which is that we hope and intend that every child has at least one residential trip, that's sleeping away from home for at least 2 nights in year 7, 8 and 9. And that's a kind of minimum part going away as a year group. And then wrapped around that are foreign trips as well, which are incredibly popular. So we regularly go to Berlin and to Amsterdam, also skiing in both Austria and America. But these are really important parts of a young person sort of growing up and their school experiences. I was with a group of year 10 girls yesterday, asking them how they were feeling coming back to school. And they said, Miss Harrison, we're so pleased to be back at school. And I just sort of smiled. And then they said, but Miss, we feel a bit sad. And I thought, my goodness, what? they said, well, we've missed going abroad on the trips that we would have done when we were in year 10, because some of them got older siblings and they know that their older siblings had been to Amsterdam and to Berlin. And I feel really aware of that. So I think we've got a real duty and responsibility to give those opportunities to our children, and please know that we will. So when will we hear from the uniform shop about booking appointments? Excellent, wonderfully organised parent here. So in terms of the uniform, our uniform supplier is Uniform for Kids, which is in Golders Green. Wonderful provision and really well structured. We will give the first set of information about school uniform just before May half term. And we do offer an appointment service where you have priority booking to go and be fitted for your child at the uniform shop, which many parents find really helpful. If you'd like a bit of a head start in terms of thinking about uniform, or you think your child might quite enjoy sort of looking at what they might wear and thinking about it, there's a full uniform list on the website, and they might find that interesting, as might you. But it's a lovely uniform, very smart but quite simple. We don't have ties, for example. And I think the children wear it very well. It's very hard wearing also. But just to note their parents that we do have an awful lot of uniform in school. From children that have grown out of it. So parents are super at bringing it in when they grow out of it. Unfortunately, teenagers do grow quite fast. But also when children have finished year 11, parents often donate the uniform back to school. And we haven't been able to do any uniform sales because of the COVID situation. So we will be doing a big uniform sale at our summer party, all being well, in July. And so I would urge you to think about whether you want to pick anything up then as well, because as I said, they do grow quite quickly. And then how do we deal with children in one class who learn at different paces and at different styles? So within the teaching classroom, we have a fully differentiated curriculum, and that is that teachers apply a range of strategies in the classroom to ensure that all children can learn. And if that's in a mixed ability class, that's incredibly important, but it's the same if it's in a set by ability class as well. And that may well be that children do different activities. Children are asked different questions, they're given different levels of material to support them. If I was to think about a history lesson that I went into this afternoon, this was a year 10 history lesson, and they were learning about the Cold War. And I was quite jealous. I'm a history teacher by trade myself, and I was quite jealous of this fascinating topic, and the students were really enjoying it. But what I could see was a very subtle, differentiated approach by the teacher. In fact, she had a series of 3 different activities that she was guiding the young people towards. And I could see, as the head teacher, that each one of those activities was at a different level of challenge. And the young people were being directed by the teacher to the different activities, but also encouraged for some choice themselves as well. And I would say that's something we do very well in our school. And that's one of the reasons why our children secure the results that they do, but also so confident in their learning. And then a parent has asked here that can children request a friend from primary school to bring their form? Yes, they certainly can. And we may override that decision with information from the child's primary school teacher. But in most cases, we absolutely want to to listen to the child and to listen to you. So yes, that's something that they might want to start thinking about. And I know it can become a hot topic of conversation on the Year 6 playground. And what learning platform did we use during lockdown? We used Microsoft Teams. We've used Microsoft Teams very successfully. You can see, of course, that we're using that this afternoon as well. And in fact, as a school, we are considering whether we make a wholesale sort of move for all of our technology platforms towards Microsoft Teams. And that will evolve before your child joins us in September. But it's been very successful, and the children have really impressed me, as have the staff, actually, in how much we've learned over the past year. And then, sorry, that parent's also asked, I'm so sorry, I almost missed that question. Are the places for after school clubs limited? We try very hard for them not to be, and it doesn't tend to be an issue, but of course it's something we always have to keep an eye on. But to be fair, if we find ourselves very oversubscribed, we tend simply to offer more provision. And that's just the type of school we are, really. I think I have a very dynamic staff who are quite enthused by the commitment of the children. So that isn't something we tend to find as an issue, but we do tend to have an awful lot of children here until way after 5 o'clock every afternoon, which I really look forward to. When do we make our enrichment choices? So the children make their enrichment choices in the first couple of weeks of October. So we don't run enrichment in the first up until the first half term, because we just find it's a little bit much when everybody's coming back to school straight after the summer holidays, and the children need time to choose what they want to do. So they make a choice for a Tuesday and a choice for the Thursday for the first period, sort of the early October until the end of the winter term. And they make a different choice for each day, and we try and encourage them to do something quite different on each of those afternoons. So, for example, not just doing 2 sport choices or 2 arts-based choices. And then the children get to choose again in January for the next term, and then again after Easter. So they do get to have a real experience throughout the course of the year. A really nice activity that you might want to do with your child is to go and have a look at what enrichment we usually offer. Now, we obviously haven't been able to do it right now, but we will be offering it again as we move into May time. But if you go onto the school website, onto the curriculum page, there is an enrichment booklets there. There are enrichment booklets there that show you some of the things that the children did last year. And again, that might be a really nice thing to look at with your child to give them a sense of, oh goodness, I really want to do that. That sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to that opportunity. And again, it's a really nice way to have that dialogue at home. But it's a wonderful time to walk around our school to see children sort of dashing up the rock climbing wall, trampolining, debating, fashion design, cooking, just so much that's happening within that sort of programme of opportunities. And as the children move through school, the programmes really evolve as well. So children have a really extended opportunity here to do things such as Duke of Edinburgh, and sort of almost 75 children in each year group from 9 up to 11 do Duke of Edinburgh here at school, because we have the capacity and the enrichment, which is wonderful. But they also do additional GCSEs in things such as religious studies, citizenship, further maths. All of that becomes available as they progress through the school, and I think it really helps them to stand out from the crowd and to have a real breadth of skills and experiences behind them. And my apologies, I'm going to keep scrolling down. Can children change sets once they've been assigned to a particular set? Absolutely. And in fact, that was a really core part of our sort of founding curriculum decisions. I feel very strongly against things such as streaming or fixed setting. I don't think it helps children at all. So sets, in fact, change every term here at school. So children move up or move down, depending on whether they need more challenge or more support. And we review those sets every term. And we'll share sort of a timeline with you when you come to the induction meetings in July there. And then a parent said, I've often seen upper school students walking between the campuses. Do the lower school students do that as well? Well, in fact, no. OK, so the upper school children will move, come to the lower school for PE. So we only have sports provision at the lower school. The lower school children don't commute between the 2 buildings, apart from on a couple of occasions. So when they're in year 9, they might come to upper school to do engineering or cookery, because that's where we have the special facilities, but they are accompanied by a teacher. So if they're accompanied by a teacher, it means they're a lower school student, but if they're on their own, it's because they're an upper school student, and we believe that we can trust them to do that independently. So there is limited movement between the campuses, but there is some. What's important to us is that the younger children do have the opportunity to come to upper school sometimes, so that they can get a sense of it, and that's a really nice part of school life. But there is quite minimal movement, but enough to make it exciting. And is there any school support sessions for children who've moved to the UK newly? Yes, absolutely, sir. We have an EAL tutor, as I've mentioned, at school, and one of our TAs at school as well specialises in our EAL curriculum. And as I've mentioned, I would just urge you to make us very aware of that quite early, so that we can ensure there is no gap in the provision that they've already been having at primary school. And then what opportunities are there for parents to meet each other? And I'd say to this parent that never has that been more important. And something that, in fact, I've missed quite a lot over the last year is that as a secondary school, often sort of parent involvement in school can be quite limited. You don't see each other every day at the school gates. You're not coming backwards and forwards. And yet, as a secondary school, we've always really mirrored that approach. We've always had a very large parents' association, a large number of social events and opportunities. And we haven't been able to do those things because of COVID. And I'm so looking forward to bringing our Parents Association sort of back to full life and having that full range of social opportunities. And I would say to you, as new parents of our school, that getting to know one another is a really special thing, but it will also be incredibly helpful to you, because you will find that your child will come home and say that they want to go to so-and-so's house, or they want to go meet so-and-so somewhere, and you won't know who that child is or who their parents are. And the more that you can get to know one another, then the more comfortable and confident you might feel in some of those things, because you want them to stretch their wings, you want them to go off and be with their new friends, but you do want some security around that as well. We do also have class WhatsApp groups, which tend to be really popular and really helpful, and then a range of opportunities also for parents to volunteer at school. So again, I'd urge you to do that. The active involvement of parents in the life of the school is something so precious, and I do hope that that is something that you will want to get involved with as well. So parents noticed the reading list. Yes, we do have reading lists. We have them for every term, but we also have them for the summer holidays. And we really do encourage you to use that reading list to support your child in making good book choices, and also perhaps choosing things they haven't considered before. But reading is a very high profile part of our school life. We were delighted to build a new library and open a new library last year based solely on parental contributions. And I do believe that libraries and reading and books are at the heart of a very special school. And I hope that you will find those reading lists helpful, but there are reading lists published throughout the VIP zone on transition as well. So the core lessons in Year 7 are English, math, science, foreign languages and humanities, and then they are supported by the creative visual arts and also through our thematic learning curriculum as well. Children will do 4 hours a week of each English, maths and science, which is above national expectations, but we think is important that those core subjects are really prioritised in children's founding years of secondary school. And we absolutely have a breakfast club. Unfortunately, not right now, but we do usually have breakfast club that runs from either 7:30 or 7:45 in the dining room in either building, which is run by TAs, and again is usually very popular with young people and also with parents as well. So I hope you might take us up on that offer. And are there any plans to open a sixth form? Well, we are, as you are aware, parents, currently in 11 to 16 school. We work in partnership with Woodhouse College, so our children have priority admissions to Woodhouse, which is an outstanding sixth form just up the road, and that is a wonderful relationship, and our children are flourishing at Woodhouse and really, really enjoy it. However, I don't really like letting them go, and we would very much like and intend to be an 11 to 18 school, and I'm very keen to explore how we might go about doing that. And I hope, parents, that you might come on that journey with me, because saying goodbye to my Year 11s is something I don't enjoy doing, and I think that we could have a wonderful sixth form here. So whilst we have a wonderful partnership arrangement with Woodhouse, and your child has every opportunity for everything that they deserve, let's look together at what could be different for your child over the coming years. That's certainly something I would like to do. And what's our policy on mobile phones? We have a very strict policy on mobile phones here at school, and that is that we do not allow smartphones at school at all, and in fact we haven't since 2015, and that is that children are not permitted to bring a mobile that has a camera or can connect to the internet. If they did bring that mobile phone to school, then that is an immediate Saturday detention with myself from 8:30 until 10:30 on a Saturday morning. That tends to be enough of a deterrent. The rule is very respected in our school community by parents and by children, and we do ask that that is a signed up part of coming to our school, that by taking the place at our school you are signing up to that expectation. We do allow children to bring what we call or the children call a brick phone, which is a very sort of traditional old-fashioned mobile phone to school. So you may send your child to school with that phone, because I'm aware that they walk home on their own, that they stay at school or go to friends' houses. I want them to be safe. I want them to be able to contact you. But what I don't want is for them to be distracted by something at school that they don't need to be distracted by, or to make poor choices around their own behaviour, which they don't have to do. Now, details about our mobile phone policy are available on the school website, but will also be in the transition guidance, and I'll show you very clear examples of what we expect and what's permitted at school. But it's been a very successful part of school policy, and it is certainly something that I don't intend to change my mind on anytime soon. But as I say to the children, I will always tell you before I tell them. And then parents asked here about the new outdoor classroom. How wonderful that you have heard about that. So we have recently been very successful in securing a grant from a local charity for just under £12,000 to build an outside classroom at the lower school. And this will be an outside learning environment to enable children to engage with nature and to learn in a very physical way. In fact, the work has started this week with the groundwork, and that garden should be up and running by the time your child joins us for induction events in the summer, in fact. But it's about having an opportunity and a space in school to learn from nature, to engage with nature. Also, we are hoping to have quite a lot of animals and pets there as well, and to have time and space to sort of bring the outside in really at school. But we're really pleased to be able to do that. There's been a number of children that have been very keen to do that for quite some time. We're then hoping over time to be able to build an extra outside physical classroom to go next to the outdoor classroom, and that is kind of the next project. So we've always got the next one waiting, but that will be the next one after the garden space. But we want to do the garden space first because we felt that was an area of school life that perhaps our young people didn't have as many opportunities to engage with within our landscape. So this is a real way to help them to learn about plants, to learn how to look after the space, but also to learn about animals and looking after them as well. We have a school dog already, Rufus, but we're hoping to add a few rabbits and a few chickens to our outdoor classroom. And a parent here, oh thank you, that's wonderful. Oh, lovely, I've got a sibling, I can't wait. Thank you very much, Mrs. Noble, that's very, very kind of you. And then here a parent just commenting about the sixth form. Yes, as I said, Woodhouse is wonderful, it's absolutely incredible, but it would be wonderful to look at how we could re-explore doing things for ourselves. And a parent here is asking about social media. This is an excellent question, and thank you so much for asking this question. I think, Andrew, that might be you, and it's wonderful to see your name pop up there. But yes, social media tends to be a bit of a turning point for children when they start year 7. It's something that you as parents will notice, that suddenly they become very interested in things such as Instagram and Facebook and these types of sites. And we have WhatsApp in particular, we have a real responsibility to help your young person to navigate that world confidently and safely, but also to help you as a parent to navigate that journey with them, because it can be a bit overwhelming. And we run a series of workshops and activities with the children, but also with you as parents, to help that not become too overwhelming and to have, in fact, be a healthy and a good part of their teenage lives. But I would say again that it's just something to be conscious that will undoubtedly perhaps be a little bit of a tension at some points as your young person becomes this teenager in the autumn term. And it's about how we work together as school and home to ensure that your child feels comfortable and safe with the internet and with social media, and they know what to do if they don't. So they know what to do if something makes them feel uncomfortable or unsafe, and they know how to look after themselves and how school will help them. And even though we do not allow smartphones in school, we absolutely take our responsibilities around social media incredibly seriously. And unfortunately, children do silly things. Children do let themselves down and make mistakes. That's part of growing up. And it's about how we help them to come out the other side. But thank you so much to the parent for asking that question. And then just finally, for this afternoon, parent asking here about whether we should bring our own pencil cases. Yes, absolutely. So children should bring their own pencil cases. And in fact, we have a stationery list. We're quite specific about what we want the children to bring. So we ask, please, that they bring their own glue sticks and highlighters, but also that they have a purple pen, a green pen, because we have, and a red pen, because we have particular assessment systems that we use in school as well. So they will have a full stationery list, and the children tend to quite enjoy that. And we do ask them to be responsible for their own stationery and their own equipment. Well, parents, I'm so sorry I've kept you for a full hour this afternoon, but I've had the opportunity to talk about my favourite topic of conversation, which is our school. But parents, we are going on a journey together now that will last at least 5 years, and I hope will last 7 years as we begin to think beyond our current 11 to 16 school. I believe that our school is a very special place to be. It is a nurturing environment. It is one that will enable your child to experience so many different things, to make new friends, to explore subject specialisms, to have fun, to enjoy their learning. I do believe that if children feel safe and they love what they're doing, that they will thrive. And I do believe that my children thrive in our school. So I so look forward to you joining our community. I can't wait to meet my new students and to bringing in our class of 2021. So I look forward to seeing you in person very soon, where I promise actual coffee and actual cake. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye-bye.